Jayo Vishnupadakam Hamsa Paragajikacharya Astatarashata Shishimati Hisvanga A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupāda ki Jai. Jayo Vishnupadakam Hamsa Paragajikacharya Astatarashata Shishimati His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki Jai. Śrīla Prabhupāda ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Nice to have such a special guest in class today. so good morning, everyone. Welcome, Hare Krishna. Welcome to ISKCON Detroit Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class, morning class. Every day we get to hear the wonderful pastime stories and lessons from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So if you do not have one in your home or in your possession or online or somewhere, please get one today. We have them at our matchless bookshop, so if anyone would like it, please feel free to come to temple. You can grab a copy today. We have been discussing in Canto 1, we're started chapter 17, which is Punishment and Reward of Kali. And before we get started in reading, just wanted to make a quick announcement. Coming up very shortly and very soon, on August 22nd, we have our annual Troy Rath Yatra. I believe this is the 9th year, so almost coming on 10 years of Rath Yatra in the city of Troy. Everyone is welcome to come. There'll be all kinds of fun activities for the entire family. Obviously, the wonderful chariot procession of Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra Mai. So please participate in this wonderful activity. It starts at 11 a.m. at Boland Park in Troy. Before we get started reading in today's verse, we'll just say a real quick prayer. Please feel free to follow along. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam.
Naram Cheva Narottamam.
Naram Cheva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Devi Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayudiraya.
Tato Jayamudiyate.
Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu.
Nastiparaishu Padreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtaki.
Bhakti Bhavati Naistaki.
Hare Krishna. So today we will be reading from Canto 1, chapter 17, and it is text 8. Najatu Koravendranam. Najatu Koravendranam. Dordanta Parivrambite. Dordanta Parivrambite. Bhutale Nupatyani Bhutale Nupatan Yasmin. Bhutale Nupatan Yasmin. Vinate Parinam Suchaha. Vinate Parinam Suchaha. Najatu Koravendranam. Dordanta Parirambite. Bhutale Nupatan Yasmin. Vinate Parinam Suchaha. So we'll go through the word for word. Na. Not. Jatu. At any time.
At any time.
Kaurava Indrana.
Kaurava Indrana.
Of the kings in the Kuru dynasty.
Of the kings in Kuru dynasty.
Dordanda.
Durga.
Strength of arms.
train of arms,
Parirambite,
Parīkṣit,
protected by Bhutale,
Bhutale,
on the surface of the earth,
on the surface of the earth,
Anupatani,
Anupatani,
grieving,
grief,
Asmin,
us,
up till now,
up to now,
Vina,
Dina,
save and accept,
save and accept,
Te,
they,
you,
you,
Parina,
Parina,
of the living being,
of the divinity,
Sucha,
Sucha,
tears in the eyes.
tears in the eyes.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupāda ki Jai. Translation. Now for the first time in a kingdom well protected by the arms of the kings of the Guru dynasty, I see you grieving with tears in your eyes. Up till now, no one on earth has ever shed tears because of royal negligence. Please repeat. Now for the first time,
Now for the first time,
in a kingdom
in the kingdom,
well protected
well protected
by the arms
by the arms
of the kings
of the kings
of the Guru dynasty,
of the Guru dynasty,
I see you grieving
I see you grieving
with tears in your eyes.
with tears in your eyes.
Up till now,
Up till now,
no one on earth
no one on earth
has ever shed tears
ever shed tears
because of royal negligence.
because of royal negligence.
Purport. The protection of the lives of both the human beings and the animals is the first and foremost duty of a government. A government must not discriminate in such principles. It is simply horrible for a pure-hearted soul to see organized animal killing by the state in this age of Kali. Mahārāja Parīkṣit was lamenting for the tears in the eyes of the bull, and he was astonished to see such an unprecedented thing in his good kingdom. Men and animals were equally protected as far as life was concerned. That is the way in God's kingdom. Jai. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savaduktam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Varnamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhyuvayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Te Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So just reading the translation one more time. For the first time in a kingdom well protected by the arms of the kings of the Guruk dynasty, I see you grieving with tears in your eyes. Up till now, no one on earth has ever shed tears because of royal negligence. So, in this particular verse, this is, or as my Prabhu would say, who's speaking? Mahārāja Parīkṣit, right? He's come upon the bull and the cow who have been beaten or are being beaten by Kali. The Shudra, who is dressed as a king. So this is kind of the scene that we're in. And this is the first time Mahārāja Parīkṣit has spoken, to this Shudra, this Kali. And so in this particular verse, very importantly, I'll just read it one more time. Now for the first time, it's hard for us to imagine, but just think about something that's happened in your life for the very first time, right? So Mahārāja Parīkṣit right now, for the very first time in a kingdom that he is protecting, is seeing this bull, this symbol of dharma, grieving with tears in his eyes, right? The bull has tears, the cow has tears. And up till now, no one on earth, if we think about the number of people on earth, right? The entire planet Earth, no one has ever shed any tears because of any royal negligence, because of anything that the government has done. Just think about that. To this day and age, that just does not exist, right? We can't even fathom it, right? But so, as it was stated in this particular verse by Śrīla Prabhupāda, right, in the purport, that the protection of the lives of both the humans and the animals is the first and foremost duty of government, right? So these are such strong statements. It's hard for us to think about because we are so succumbed and so used to seeing, whether on the news or wherever, people with tears in their eyes, right? So much calamity around us. It's just sometimes we're not even fazed by it, Another school shooting. That's the situation now. It's so sad, right? If we think about it. So today, what I want to go through is this particular verse, but a few concepts of what it means what are principles and what it means to have principles, and then also compassion. Let's talk a little bit about compassion today. So we see in this particular verse, what astonished Mahārāja Parīkṣit. Mahārāja Parīkṣit was not simply surprised that the bull was crying, but he was completely astonished because this crying should not have been possible in his kingdom. Why is someone crying in my kingdom, right? That, again, this is very unimaginable for him and stuff. So a king walking through his kingdom, or any leader walking through their particular domain and stuff, and sees a living being suffering, his immediate thought is not, oh, that's unfortunate, oh, too bad, right? His thought is, how has this happened under my protection? How is someone suffering? How are the people under me or who I'm supposed to protect suffering? This is the consciousness of someone who is God-centered, right? A God-centered leader. Sometimes we hear this term as a servant leader, right? So those who are serving those others, right, that are under their guidance and so forth. So the king, in this state, he does not think, and unfortunately in today's time we hear this, that, oh, this is not my problem. I'm not dealing with it. I'm not. He actually thinks, someone who is a God-centered leader thinks that this is my responsibility, and that is the difference. So we see that in this particular verse. Śrīla Prabhupāda has explained that Mahārāja Parīkṣit's kingdom, human beings and animals were both protected. What do we see in today's world? Animals are taken to slaughterhouses, right? Or we protect the dogs, right? But we kill the cow and the bull, who is our mother and our father. This is the situation we're in right now. Therefore, to see a bull crying because of this decline in religion, back in the beginning, right, this was very unprecedented. But as Kali progresses, as this Kali Yuga progresses, we're going to see more and more of these tears. So this is kind of where we are, and why Mahārāja Parīkṣit immediately became extremely concerned and came to this particular location. Now, in this world, we're under material government rule. But then there's also God-centered government, or what we call God's rules and laws, things that we cannot escape. So these are two very different concepts, but they are at the same time, we have been given in the Vedic philosophy, in the Vedic scriptures, how to live a God-centered government, or how to rule under God's laws. And we see that if a materially centered government exists, ultimately, what is their goal, right? They become concerned with material development, economic growth. We hear about that. Sense gratification, political power. Everything's a power struggle. And maintaining the satisfaction of its constituents. So doing what pleases others so that they can vote me in, right? Or saying things even, not necessarily fulfilling them, but just saying things so that they will vote me in. But now these things, they have their place because it's Kali Yuga, but we see that it adds to the suffering versus taking the suffering away. But the Vedic conception asks a little bit of a deeper question, right? The Vedic conception is, what is the purpose of this human life? Why are we here, right? So if the government gives us better roads, more entertainment, more money, all these things, more technology, but the people become increasingly greedy, angry. There's so much depression, mental issues, intoxication, right? People are spiritually empty. Can we say that the society is progressing? But if we look from a Vedic perspective, progress is more than just material, right? The goal is dharma, or to live a God-centered life. And dharma means living according to these laws of God, right? And this is why scriptures are so important. This is why reading is so important, why we have Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, why we have Bhagavad Gita, is because we should learn what are the laws of God, how to live a God-centered life. And so the Bhagavatam states, Dharmam tu shakshat bhagavat pranitam. Dharma is given to us by the Supreme Lord. So if we learn how to live, what is my purpose? What am I doing here, right? If we learn all these things through Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Bhagavad Gita, then we are learning directly from the Supreme Lord, right? Because He is the one who's given us all of this. So someone who lives in a God-centered government does not invent morality or according to whatever, is popular at the moment, right? It asks, what does God want from us? What has God instructed? What protects the living entity? And what helps people advance towards these real goals of life? So this is why we have principles. And why are principles so important? Why should one live with principles? Suppose there's a boat in an ocean, right? And if the captain says, we don't need to follow the rules. We can just go wherever we want. Let the boat float, and stuff. What will happen, right? The boat will eventually get lost or get into trouble or, pray we don't sink and stuff. So similarly, human society requires principles. We have to live by some principles. So Krishna Bhagavan in Bhagavad Gita, in 1624, he says, Tamsmak chastram praninam te karya karya vai vastuto. Therefore, scriptures should be accepted as the authority for determining what should be done and what should not be done. So there's two things, what should be done and what should not be done. So principles, when you live a principled life, it's not restricting, it's not just restrictions, right? Simply to make our life difficult. You know, we don't live by principles because we want to, you know, take us, like there is austerity in it, but it doesn't make our life difficult, right? Principles are there for protection. If we follow principles, we stay protected. For example, a child may think that this fence in the yard, you know, he wants to go out and play, but there's this big fence in the yard, you know, and he thinks, oh, this fence is restricting me, you know, they try to climb over it and stuff. But the fence is actually there to be, to protect him, right? From maybe falling into the ditch, from getting lost, from whatever the situation may be, entering the road, right? So a fence is there for protection. Similarly, we have regulative principles of devotional life, right? We have no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. They're not meant to take our happiness away. They're actually meant to protect our consciousness. And we see, like, the legs of the bull, right? The austerity, the cleanliness, the truthfulness, and so forth. These principles that are there, and if we follow this no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling, then these pillars can stay strong, right? These pillars of religion. But right now, Kali is knocking them down. How much meat eating is going on? How much intoxication is going on? Illicit sex, gambling, it's everywhere. It's on every billboard, and so forth. So we live by these principles because it protects our consciousness. Without principles, who becomes king? Who becomes the leader? The mind. And if we know the mind, right? The mind is very difficult to control. If the mind becomes the leader or the king, then today I want this, tomorrow I will want this, you know, next day something else. Like, it's unable to control, you know, to control the mind is like controlling the wind. It's very, very difficult. So my consciousness, my mind is going to take it everywhere and so forth. So that's why we have these principles and we use our intelligence and we follow them. So a devotee says, I don't want my mind to be my master. I want Krishna to be my master. And that is what gives us real freedom, real protection in today's world. And Bhagavad Gita gives us a foundation for how to live a God-centered life, right? Krishna very famously says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glaner bhaviti bharata avyudyanam dharmasya dadatamman srija aham. Whenever and wherever there's a decline in religious principles, a predominant rise in irreligion, so both a decline in religious principles and a rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. And then Krishna explains, he comes, Parityana sadhunam vinashaya chadruskritam dharmasta samstaparatyaya sambhavami yuge yuge, right? To deliver the pious, annihilate the miscreants, and reestablish these principles of religion. So Krishna comes to reestablish these principles, but we have these principles. We should be responsible to uphold these principles, right? So the purpose of dharma samstapana is to establish this dharma. And that is the greatness of this Krishna conscious process, right? It gives us how to live with dharma, like how to live with these principles. So the deeper principle of all of this is to live in this God, as God in the center, right? It doesn't matter what occupation we may be doing or what our position is, but everyone can live a God-centered life. A king is not a proprietor, right? The citizens are not proprietors. Government is not the ultimate proprietor. Krishna is the ultimate proprietor. He says, Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram, right? He's the enjoyer of all sacrifices and austerities. And he's the proprietor of all the planets, not just this planet Earth, but everything. So when we live and we understand these principles, who is the ultimate proprietor? Then a God-centered leader, a king, a person who is God-centered thinks, I'm here to serve God's creation, right? Because he is the ruler of everything. Who am I? I'm just a servant of the Lord, right? Where instead a materialistic leader might think, how can God's creation actually serve me? What can I extract from here to enjoy for myself, right? And that is the fundamental difference, how to serve, right? So Mahārāja Parīkṣit, in this particular verse, he understood his responsibility as a leader, right? He was a very Raja Rishi is what they call him, right? Someone who's a king, but also he's like a sage at the same time. Because when we have power without spiritual principles, it becomes very dangerous, right? Because you're serving yourself. So a person may have enormous authority, but if he has no control over his senses, how can he control or protect a kingdom or a city or a state, right? So Bhagavad Gita, another famous, so many principles come from Bhagavad Gita. Please, if you don't have a copy, get one today, right? It's important how we live. Another important principle is yada yada acharati shasta tad tad evaitaro jana. So whatever actions a great man performs, common men follow. So as a leader, as a ruler, again, you set the examples of how, your children are watching parents, for example. Parents set the example. Disciples watch their gurus. Gurus are setting the example. Citizens watch their leaders. If you have a righteous leader, a God-centered leader, or they're living by principles, then the citizens will also follow those similar principles. So people watch. That's how we learn, right? You watch and learn. We hear this all the time. So leadership is about giving personal examples, right? Like being the personal example for everyone to follow. So if I tell everyone, to be compassionate, but I am harsh around people around me, my philosophy has no power. It has no basis. If I tell everyone to control their senses, but I cannot control my own tongue, Jai Shri Shri Radha Kunjviyai ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai ki Jai, Shri Raja Bhagwan ki Jai, Shri Gauri ki Śrīla Prabhupāda ki Jai. If I tell people, to control their senses, but I cannot control my own senses, right? Therefore, people will notice that. It's called hypocrite, right? So, therefore, real change has to belong or has to reside within ourselves. You have to be the change. We hear this, right? I think Martin Luther King said it. You have to be the change the change you want to see, you have to be, something like that. Sorry, I can't really remember it. So, it has to start with us. So quickly about this compassion, right? How can we become more compassionate? This brings us directly back to these tears in the bull's eyes. How do we develop that kind of compassion and not get so tainted by what we see in the world today? The first step to understand this is that every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna. We really have to think about this. Every person, every animal, every living entity we see, if we see them as a part and parcel of Krishna, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Aham bija pradapita, right? He's the seed-giving father of everyone. And if Krishna is the father of everyone, then every living entity that's out there, we're one big spiritual family, right? Those are our brothers and sisters out there. And so Gita also explains, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Jeva Swapakecha Banditaha Samadarshinaha. A learned person sees with equal vision a learned brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and even one who is socially considered an outcast as equal, as on the same, right? Now, this does not mean everyone is equal when it has identical duties in that sense, but it means that underneath these external bodies, we have the same spirituality, right? We have the same spirit soul. We are all living beings and servants of Krishna. Now, when we understand this, like we have to live this understanding, not just like, okay, I know it in my head, but if we know it in our heart, you know, that is when compassion will naturally develop. Everyone is working for Krishna. We are all servants for Krishna. We are all trying, right? When we see that, that's when compassion develops. But why don't we feel this compassion at this time? You know, because our consciousness is covered, right? We're not fully pure in our heart. We're not fully pure in our consciousness or in our mind. You know, we are very compassionate towards people who we think are mine in this day and age. My family, my friends, my community, my country, right? We have compassion for that. But what about everyone else? So that's what Bhagavatam teaches us, right? To expand this understanding of mind, right? Because mind lies in that little false ego of ours. So a devotee gradually realizes that this person is Krishna's, right? This animal is Krishna's. This earth is Krishna's, right? Everything belongs to Krishna. So if we think about like that, then compassion becomes actually spiritual. We don't feel sorry for, you know, someone's temporary suffering, but we actually want to help them spiritually. And the greatest thing we can do, the greatest compassion, is giving this Krishna consciousness. Because we can give food, clothing, medicine, you know, that's all great. But how can I help this soul remember Krishna? Because if he remembers God, if he remembers Krishna, then he himself will be compassionate towards others and then spread that compassion, right? So this is something that I just kind of wanted to go over, is the importance of these principles. How we can develop compassion, you know, if we can think about Krishna in everything we see. And it's a beautiful lesson that we're learning in this particular chapter, you know. Very important that Mahārāja Parīkṣit, you know, did not become compassionate because someone gave him a lecture on compassion. Like, this lecture is not going to make you compassionate. But he saw suffering, and in his heart, he responded. So translating all of these principles into the heart, right? When we hear so many spiritual instructions, and we become very accustomed to them, right? Be compassionate, chant Hare Krishna, serve others, don't exploit. We hear, you know, so many things. You're not this body, you're, you know, spirit, soul, like, and stuff. But in our head, we may know it. But how to live by it? We have to translate it back into our hearts, right? And Mahārāja Parīkṣit's examples, you know, he shows this because he takes the spiritual knowledge that we're receiving, but the response comes from his heart. Right? So when we see someone suffering, we should want to help. When we see someone spiritually confused, we should want to help. When someone is lonely, we should help them, you know, obtain the spiritual knowledge. When we see animals suffering, all of these things, we should help them. And especially when we see someone who's forgetful of Krishna, we should want to lovingly remind them of Krishna. So all of this can start just within your own home. You know, I know many people are enthusiastic and wants to change the world and everything, but start with yourself, start in your own home. That's one step, right? Baby steps. You take it one step at a time. So from this particular verse, you know, a real leader, you are a real leader. Every individual is a leader, right? and so forth. Your examples will slowly change others, and people will see your example. So be the example that you want others to see. I think that was it, something. So, don't ignore the tears that we see around us. Learn to live in that responsible way so that others would also want to live the way that you do. And these principles that were given to us, they're here to protect us, right? They're not, Dharma is not an inconvenience. It is for our protection. When society abandons these principles, what do we see? You see this example, right? You see suffering. It's not like someone has to tell you. You see it for yourself. And when individuals live by principles, we can see how happy and peaceful they are, right? Just try it. 30-day guarantee. If it doesn't work, you can return it. But try these principles, right? No meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication. Just try it for 30 days and chant rounds. See what it changes, And finally, compassion comes from seeing Krishna everywhere. So the more we read, we chant, we purify, we associate with devotees, we eat Krishna prasadam, all of these things, we start seeing Krishna everywhere, right? And stuff. The more we can do that, the more we can build compassion truly from the heart. Not just from the words or not from the mind, but from the heart. So, not simply what I can get, what I want, to get for myself, but how can I serve Krishna in every situation? And that will give compassion to all. So, this is a little bit of what I wanted to say today regarding this verse. If you have anything further to explain on this verse, please feel free to do so. It's just a few lectures I listened to, so. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Grantharaj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai. If there's any questions or comments, please feel free to speak. If there's no comments or questions in today's...
What do we practice to? I know you said compassion just doesn't come on its own. Like what should we do? Like constantly we should do that we will have a compassion arising in our heart.
Yeah. So, in this particular process in Bhagavad Gita also, if we follow these ABCDs, we take association of devotees, right? And not just any devotees, but those devotees that are maybe senior to us, or devotees we find inspiring, right? Someone we can take inspiration from. So these are individuals that are living this compassion, right? That we see, that they're following in the examples of previous acharyas that have, demonstrated this compassion. Right? If we see their example, that helps us to build like this consciousness that eventually will affect our heart. Reading these books, we see so many examples of compassion, right? Not in just Mahārāja Parīkṣit, but in these different, even like Krishna when Sudama came, right? How much compassion he had towards him, with the chup, right? And stuff, right? He was very loving in return. So, seeing these different examples within Bhagavatam and reading cannot, Śrīla Prabhupāda's example himself. At that advanced age, he comes to America just to give us this, instructions, these Vedic philosophy and stuff. Suffering 2 heart attacks. What kind of compassion is that, right? Like, he didn't care for himself. He wanted to give so much of this philosophy to others. So even if we think about Śrīla Prabhupāda and like how much compassion he had on individuals, right? Tolerance, patience, compassion, all of these things. Then if we constantly try to think and hear and read about these things, eventually in our mind, it will come into our heart. Chanting, if we attentively chant, Krishna will give us the ability, the strength, the wisdom, the intelligence to see everyone as his creation, right? We have to become fully dependent on Krishna, and Krishna will help us see everyone, even if someone is not according to our, behaving appropriately, but if that person is trying to serve Krishna, right, we will automatically have compassion on that, right? As we start to purify, as we chant, as we pray to Krishna, please give me the intelligence to have this compassion within the heart and stuff. And taking Krishna Prasadam, right? When we take Krishna Prasadam, it is a purificatory process, purification process within our body and stuff. It helps our mind, taking the sattvic diet, because we know the foods that we eat, although it comes from Krishna, it has Krishna's energy in it. When it's offered to the Lord and then we take it, that sanctified food has energy in it, right? What gives us energy? The food. But what energy does that food have, right? Right? That prasada, that is what gives us the energy. So if we eat this food that has been sanctified by the Lord, his energy comes in that, and that energy comes in us when we take it. So there is a difference. Just try it. 30 days. Anyone, right? Try it, see it, and stuff. So slowly, by following all these things, right, and being around God-conscious and centered individuals, we can develop this compassion in you. It takes time, it takes patience, but we can also take a moment to reflect, right? If you are in certain situations, think about, was I compassionate in that situation? How can I be more compassionate in that situation, right? Because it starts with us. Ultimately, it starts with us. So, I don't know if that's the correct answer, but at least this is what I can think of. We have to keep reflecting, keep thinking, keep purifying, and, it'll come from the heart. It will come from the heart. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Then we'll start again tomorrow. Please join us every day for Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class. Again, hearing these wonderful stories, it helps us develop these principles. It helps us develop this compassion, tolerance, patience, all these good qualities that we've been talking about. So please join us. And then every Saturday we read Bhagavad Gita starting at 5:30. And so please come and read with us this Bhagavad Gita. Let's discuss, let's talk about it. Let's see how we can develop these principles more and more into our lives. And every Sunday we have our Sunday Love Feast. Please join us. It is an excellent time to do all of these activities. Associate, chant, eat and read, eat Krishna Prasadam and read and hear from all these wonderful books that Śrīla Prabhupāda has given us. So please join us every Sunday. If you'd like a tour, check out our website. You can sign up for a tour of this beautiful temple that has been given to us by Śrīla Prabhupāda. So thank you very much. Lots of ways to build compassion in your life. Jai Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki Jai, Śrīla Prabhupāda ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai. Hare Krishna.